Thomas Webb was a mechanic. He lived alone in a small house near the mountains of Montana. His garage was old, but he loved it. For 30 years, he had fixed every broken thing that people brought to him. Cars, trucks, engines, even old planes. He was very good at what he did. On this night, Thomas was sitting in his garage, drinking coffee and listening to the rain. It was late, almost midnight. He was tired and wanted to go to bed soon. The rain was heavy and loud. Thunder crashed above the mountains. Thomas did not mind the storm. He liked storms. They were peaceful to him. Then something changed. The sky became very bright. A blue light, brighter than anything Thomas had ever seen, filled the entire garage. Thomas jumped up from his chair. His coffee cup fell and broke on the floor. The light was so bright that he had to cover his eyes with his hands. He could not see anything except the blue glow. After the light came a sound. It was not like thunder. It was louder, deeper, like the earth itself was breaking. The garage shook. Tools fell from the walls. The metal roof made terrible sounds. Thomas held onto a workbench to stay on his feet. The sound lasted for what felt like a very long time, but it was probably only 10 seconds. Then everything became quiet. The light was gone. The sound was gone. Only the rain remained. Thomas stood in his garage, breathing hard, trying to understand what had just happened. He looked outside through the dirty window. The sky was dark again, but something was wrong. Something was burning in the desert, far away but not too far. Thomas could see the glow of fire on the horizon. He knew what he had to do. He grabbed his heavy jacket, took a flashlight from the wall, and picked up the old rifle that hung above his workbench. Not because he thought he would need to shoot something, but because it was just what he did when something strange happened on his land. The rifle made him feel safer. Thomas walked out into the rain. The cold water hit his face and made him shiver. He walked toward the fire, following the glow on the horizon. His boots were heavy with mud. The desert was dark except for the fire in the distance. He had walked for maybe 30 minutes when he saw it. A ship. A real ship that had fallen from the sky. But this was not like any ship Thomas had ever seen. It was not made of metal that looked normal. The metal was smooth and seemed to change color in the firelight, shifting between silver and purple and blue. It was shaped like nothing from Earth. It had no wings like airplanes. It had no clear windows. It looked almost like a living thing, like a whale or a giant fish that had fallen from the clouds. Part of the ship was broken. There was a big hole in the side and smoke was coming out. The smoke smelled strange, not like fire but like something electrical and burned. The ground around the ship was hot. Thomas could feel the heat from many feet away. He did not get too close at first. He just stood and looked at what he had found. Then he saw the creature. It came out through the broken hole in the ship. It was tall, much taller than Thomas. It had 2 legs like a human but 4 arms instead of 2. Its skin was not like human skin. It looked like oil on water, changing colors as it moved. The creature had very large eyes, bigger than human eyes, and they were bright gold. It looked at Thomas and Thomas looked at it. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then the creature made a sound. It was not words at first, just a sound like wind blowing through a canyon. But then a small device on the creature's chest began to glow, and the sound changed into words. The words were strange, but Thomas understood them. "Help," the creature said. "Ship failing. Systems critical. Help please." Thomas should have been afraid. He should have run. But something in him, something that had been there since he was a boy, made him stay. This creature was hurt. This thing that had fallen from the sky needed help. And Thomas was a man who fixed things. "Okay," Thomas said quietly. "Okay, I will help." The creature's name was Krell. Thomas learned this as he followed the tall alien back into the broken ship. Inside it was warm and bright even though part of it was on fire. There were lights everywhere, strange lights that came from the walls themselves. There were machines and instruments that Thomas did not understand, but he could see that many of them were broken or not working. Krell's arm was hurt badly. Dark fluid dripped from a wound. But Krell did not seem to care about the arm. The alien pointed to machines and panels and tried to explain what was wrong. Krell's translator made the words come out in English, but they were not always clear words. Still, Thomas listened carefully. As Krell explained, Thomas began to understand. The machines inside the ship worked on principles he already knew. Energy moved from place to place. Pressure built up and needed to be released. Heat had to be controlled. These were not completely new ideas to Thomas. These were just the same ideas from the machines he had fixed his whole life, but bigger and more complicated. "Show me everything," Thomas said. "I want to see all of it." Thomas worked through the whole night. He used tools from Krell's ship and tools from his garage. He fixed one system by rerouting power through another system. He fixed another by using materials to make a seal that stopped the leaking fluid. He understood what each machine was trying to do, and then he figured out how to make it do that thing again. Krell watched the human work. The alien's golden eyes never left Thomas. As the night went on, Krell's expression changed from worry to something else. Something like wonder. By the time the sun came up, the ship was working. The fires were out. The machines were running. The ship could fly. Krell looked at Thomas with those big golden eyes and said words that Thomas did not fully understand at the time. "Your species is remarkable," Krell said. "You understood without any training. You are not like other species I have met." Thomas just shrugged. He was very tired. "It is just machines," Thomas said. "Everything is just machines." Thomas Webb woke up late the next morning. He had not slept well. He kept thinking about Krell and the ship. He kept thinking about those strange machines and the way the alien had looked at him. It all seemed like a dream, something that could not be real. But Thomas knew it was real. He could still smell the burned metal from the ship. He went to his kitchen and made breakfast. He was very hungry. He cooked eggs and toast and drank strong black coffee. The rain from the night before had stopped. The sun was bright and warm coming through his kitchen window. It was a normal morning. Thomas wanted to believe everything was normal. Then the shadows came. At first, Thomas did not notice. He was eating his eggs and looking out the window at his empty land. But the light from the window began to change. It became darker and darker until Thomas could barely see his plate of food. He looked up, confused. 3 massive black ships hung in the sky above his house. They were not like Krell's ship. These ships were brutal and angular like weapons. They had sharp corners and hard edges. They looked military. They looked dangerous. They moved slowly down through the clouds until they surrounded his small house. Thomas could see soldiers moving on the ships. He could see weapons on the outside of the halls. Thomas stood up from his table. His heart was beating very fast. He did not know what was happening, but he knew it was not good. He walked to his front door and locked it. But he knew that a locked door would not stop these ships. He was right. The sound came first. A loud voice from above the house, using a speaker that was very powerful. "Thomas Edward Webb, you are ordered to open your door. This is the Earth Colonial Authority. You must cooperate immediately." Thomas did not know what the Earth Colonial Authority was. He had never heard these words before. He opened his mouth to say something, but before he could speak, his front door exploded inward. Soldiers came through the broken door like water flooding a dam. They were human soldiers, but they wore uniforms that Thomas did not recognize. Their armor was black and shiny and looked like nothing from any country Thomas knew. They carried weapons that looked strange and dangerous. The weapons hummed and glowed with a blue light. "Get on the ground," one of the soldiers shouted at Thomas. "Now." Thomas got on the ground. There was no point in fighting. There were 12 soldiers pointing weapons at his chest. His hands were forced behind his back. Something cold and metal locked around his wrists. It was very tight. The cuffs hissed and made a small beeping sound. "Thomas Edward Webb?" a woman's voice called from the doorway. "You are coming with us. Do not make this difficult." The woman was tall and thin. Her face was hard and cold. Her hair was gray and pulled back very tight. She wore a uniform like the soldiers, but with more decorations and signs of rank. Her eyes were sharp like a hawk's eyes. "My name is Commander Helena Voss," the woman said. "You are under arrest by order of the Earth Colonial Authority. You will come with us now." Thomas tried to speak. "I do not understand. What is happening? Why are you—" "Silence," Voss said. She made a sign with her hand, and the soldiers picked Thomas up from the floor. They carried him out of his house, through his broken door, and toward one of the waiting ships. Thomas could see everything around him, but it did not feel real. This was happening too fast. They put him in a transport vehicle that moved very fast through the air. Thomas could see through a small window that they were leaving his house behind. His garage was getting smaller and smaller until it disappeared. The ground below became smaller and smaller. They were flying high into the sky. The transport landed inside one of the big black ships. Thomas was taken down a long metal corridor. The walls were cold and smooth. Everything was very clean and very modern. They came to a room with a single chair in the middle. The room was empty except for a light that hung from the ceiling. They strapped Thomas into the chair. His wrists and ankles were locked down. The door closed and Thomas was alone. He sat there for a long time. He did not know how long. Maybe 1 hour. Maybe 3 hours. There was no window. There was no clock. Thomas sat and waited and tried to understand what was happening. Then Commander Voss came into the room. She sat in a chair across from him. She looked at him like he was an interesting insect she had never seen before. You repaired an alien spacecraft, Voss said. It was not a question. I helped someone, Thomas said. The pilot was hurt. I fixed the ship so the pilot could leave safely. You exposed classified information, Voss said. You violated the restricted contact protocols. You have created a diplomatic incident that is causing serious problems for many people. Thomas did not understand what she was saying. What is the Earth Colonial Authority? I have never heard of this before. Are you American? Are you military? Voss made a small sound almost like a laugh, but there was no humor in it. Mr. Webb, what I am about to tell you will change everything you believe about your life. Everything you thought you knew about the world is not true. What do you mean? Thomas asked. Humanity is not alone, Voss said. We have never been alone. For the last 207 years, Earth has been part of something much larger. We are part of a galactic coalition. An organization of many species from many planets. A government far bigger than any government you know. Thomas did not believe her. This is not real. You are lying to me. I am not lying, Voss said. The alien you helped was an inspector. A government official sent to observe humanity and report back to the coalition. That alien filed a report about you. About how you understood its technology. About your unusual abilities. This report has now been read by hundreds of alien species. Your existence is now known to the entire galaxy. Thomas felt very cold inside. What will happen to me? That, Voss said, is what we are trying to decide. You are very valuable, Mr. Webb. Some people see you as a threat. Other people see you as proof that humanity is much more capable than the authority has allowed us to be. Right now, you are at the center of a very complicated situation. Am I a prisoner? Thomas asked. You are an asset, Voss said. And your future depends on what happens next. Thomas spent 3 weeks inside the testing chambers. They were large rooms filled with machines and broken technology from many different worlds. The rooms were cold and bright. There were always cameras watching him. There were always people taking notes on electronic devices. The first person who treated Thomas with kindness was Dr. Rebecca Fisher. She was a woman in her middle years, with kind eyes and glasses made of thin metal. She came to him on the first day after his arrest and introduced herself with a small smile. I know this is very difficult, Rebecca said. But I need to understand how your mind works. Will you help me with that? Thomas nodded. He did not have a choice, but Rebecca's kind voice made him feel a little less afraid. The first test was simple. Questions. So many questions. Rebecca asked Thomas about his childhood, his family, his education. She asked him about machines and how he learned to fix things. She asked him how he thought about problems. She wrote everything down carefully in a notebook. Why are you asking me these things? Thomas asked. What difference does it make? Everything makes a difference, Rebecca said. I need to understand you, Thomas. Really understand you. Not just what you can do, but why you can do it. After the questions came the tests with numbers and patterns. They were tests that Thomas had taken in school many years ago. Intelligence tests. Thomas completed them quickly. Rebecca watched him work and said nothing, but she made many notes. Then came the machines. They brought him broken technology from the coalition. Technology that was thousands of years more advanced than anything on Earth. Machines that looked like nothing he had ever seen. Machines with parts that glowed and hummed and moved in ways that did not make sense. Tell me what is wrong with this machine, Rebecca said. She pointed to a device that looked like a metal sphere with strange symbols on it. Thomas looked at it carefully. He did not touch it at first. He just looked and listened. He could hear a small sound, almost like a vibration. He could see that one side was warmer than the other side. He could see that certain parts were not moving the way they should be moving. The power is not balanced, Thomas said. Energy is moving through one side too much. The other side is receiving too little. It is like a river that is too full on one bank and too empty on the other bank. The river will break through the weak bank. Rebecca's eyes became very wide. That is exactly right. How did you know that? I do not know, Thomas said. I just understood it. Every machine tries to do something. If you understand what it is trying to do, you can figure out what is stopping it from doing that thing. Day after day they brought him more machines. Some he fixed by thinking about them. Some he fixed by asking for materials and building new parts. Every time he understood what was wrong faster than the machines that analyzed the broken technology could figure it out. On the 10th day, Rebecca sat with him during a break from testing. They drank tea in a small room with a window. Thomas could see the outside world through the window, but it was far away. He could see buildings and sky, but nothing familiar. Your mind is remarkable, Rebecca said quietly. You are very intelligent, yes, but intelligence is not your main gift. Many people are intelligent. What you have is different. What do I have? Thomas asked. Intuition, Rebecca said. Creativity. You evolved on a hard planet, Thomas. A planet where things were unpredictable. Your species learned to survive by being creative with limited resources. You had to innovate or die. That created something special in your people. You do not think like most species think. You do not follow instructions. You solve problems. Why does that matter? Thomas asked. Rebecca looked out the window for a long time before she answered. Because most species are afraid of humanity. They think if your people ever reached your full potential, you would become too strong, too competitive. So the Earth Colonial Authority has been controlling humanity's development. Keeping you advanced enough to be useful, but not advanced enough to be threatening. That is not fair, Thomas said. No, Rebecca said. It is not fair. It is wrong. But that is how things have been for 200 years. The third week of testing brought something different. A coalition official brought a broken machine to the testing chamber. It was different from the other machines. It was larger and more complex. It had more glowing parts and more moving components. This device has been broken for 6 months, the official said. He was not human. He was a tall being made of something that looked like crystal. His voice was like wind chimes. Our best engineers have tried to repair it. We cannot. We do not know what the problem is. Show me, Thomas said. For 4 hours, Thomas studied the machine. He did not touch it at first. He just looked and listened and thought. The other scientists watched him. They did not believe he could solve this problem. Rebecca stood nearby, watching carefully. Then Thomas asked for materials. Common materials. Metal wire, energy conductors, material for sealing. Using these things, he built something that looked like a bridge between two parts of the machine. It was simple. It was elegant. It looked wrong to everyone who saw it. This will not work, the crystal official said. This design violates the principles of. Turn it on, Thomas said. They turned it on. The machine began to work. It worked better than it had ever worked before. The crystal official made a sound like breaking glass. It might have been surprise. Might have been shock. How did you do this? The official asked. You were thinking about efficiency, Thomas said. You were trying to make the machine perfect. But sometimes perfect is not the answer. Sometimes good enough is better than perfect. You needed to let the energy flow different ways. Let it find its own path. It is like water. You cannot force water to flow. You have to show it where it wants to go. Rebecca smiled. Thomas realized she had been waiting for this moment. She had been building something. Building evidence. Building a case for something important. That night, Rebecca came to his room. She looked excited and a little nervous. There is a vote coming, she whispered. A vote about humanity's future. They want you to appear before the Coalition Council. They want you to show them what you can do. Thomas, this could change everything. Commander Helena Voss's face was very angry when she learned about the plan. She came to Thomas's room late at night, and her voice was cold and sharp like ice. You will not appear before the council, she said. You will be transferred to a secure location immediately. You will have no contact with anyone. This is final. But Rebecca had already moved her pieces on the board. She had contacted other people in the authority who believed humanity deserved better. She had also contacted Krell, the alien pilot that Thomas had saved. Krell had filed an official commendation with the Coalition. An official document that praised Thomas's intelligence and creativity. That document had already been read by thousands of Coalition representatives. The Coalition could not ignore Thomas anymore. The authority could not hide him. Voss was overruled by people higher than her. Thomas would appear before the council. Rebecca came to him the day before the vote. She helped him put on a gray suit that fit perfectly. She looked at him seriously. The council chamber is very large, she said. There will be many species there. Many beings that look nothing like you. Many beings that think very differently than you. But you must not be afraid. You must speak the truth. Tell them what you understand about machines and systems and problems. Tell them how your mind works. What if I fail? Thomas asked. You will not fail, Rebecca said. Because you are not trying to impress them. You are trying to help them understand something real. That is always stronger than trying to impress. The transport ship took Thomas to a massive station that orbited Earth. Thomas had never seen anything so large. The station was like a small city but floating in space. The windows showed him the planet below, blue and white and beautiful. It was strange to see Earth from above. The council chamber was exactly as Rebecca had described. It was enormous. The room was circular and the walls went up very high. The seats were arranged in rings that went around and around. In the center of the chamber was a large open space. That was where Thomas would stand. Representatives from dozens of alien species filled the seats. Thomas had never imagined so many different kinds of beings could exist. Some looked almost human. Others looked like nothing from Earth. There were beings made of crystal. Beings made of light. Beings that were tall and thin like sticks. Beings that were round like balls. Thomas felt very small. A voice spoke from somewhere. It was formal and official. We present Thomas Webb, human from Earth. This human has demonstrated unusual ability to repair and understand advanced technology. We will now observe. Two workers brought a machine to the center of the chamber. It was the same power regulator that Thomas had fixed in the testing chamber. But now it was broken again. The workers placed it carefully in front of Thomas. This machine is critical to coalition operations, the voice said. It has been broken for 6 months. Our finest engineers cannot solve the problem. We ask you, Thomas Webb, can you help us? Thomas walked to the machine. He could feel every eye in the chamber watching him. He could feel the importance of this moment. But he pushed those feelings away. He did what he always did. He looked at the machine like it was just a machine. He studied it carefully. He listened to the sounds it made. He felt the temperature of different parts. He did not touch it. He did not try to take it apart. He just observed and thought. Then he spoke. His voice was small in the large chamber, but the room was designed to carry sound clearly to every seat. Your system is designed for efficiency, Thomas said. You built this machine to be perfect. You tried to make every part work in perfect balance. But you are ignoring something important. You are ignoring harmonic resonance. You are ignoring the natural vibration of energy moving through the system. Thomas paused. He looked at the machine again. You are thinking like engineers, he continued. You are thinking about making everything perfect. But perfection is not always the answer. Sometimes you need to think like a mechanic. Sometimes you need to think about what is practical and what actually works. Sometimes you need to let the system find its own way instead of forcing it into your design. Thomas asked for materials. Simple materials. Wire and metal pieces and compounds for sealing. The workers brought what he asked for. Thomas worked for 1 hour. He built something that looked simple and maybe even wrong. He added connections where connections should not be. He created pathways that looked inefficient. Then he asked them to start the machine. The machine began to work. It worked better than it had ever worked in its entire history. The power was stable. The energy flowed smoothly. The machine hummed with perfect function. The entire chamber became silent. Every being was watching. How is this possible? Asked a being made of crystal. His voice was like wind chimes. Your solution violates fundamental principles. No, Thomas said. It works with natural principles instead of fighting them. You were trying to control the energy. I let the energy move the way it wants to move. Energy wants to flow. You were building a wall. I built a river instead. Then a familiar voice spoke from one of the seats. It was Krell. The alien pilot stood up. I have observed many species, Krell said. His golden eyes looked at Thomas with something like pride. I have never encountered a species that could understand technology so far beyond their own in such a short time. This human did not know my ship, yet he fixed it perfectly. This human did not understand your systems, yet he repaired them. This is not merely intelligence. This is something special. This is potential. Rebecca also stood up. She had been given permission to speak. Humanity has been suppressed for 200 years, Rebecca said. Not because we are dangerous but because other species fear what we might become. This is wrong. Humanity should not be protected like children in a cage. We should be challenged to grow like any other species. We deserve that chance. We deserve to reach our potential. The chamber became louder. Many voices spoke at once. The representatives were debating. They were arguing. But Thomas could hear some of them saying things like yes, and potential, and intelligence. Then the council called for a vote. Every representative used a device to cast their vote. The votes were counted by a computer. Everyone waited. The moment felt very long. Then the official voice spoke again. The vote is complete. The decision is made. Humanity's classification is upgraded. No longer protected species with restricted development. Now emerging participant species with full technology access and unrestricted development. Welcome, humanity, to the Galactic Coalition as equals. Thomas felt something break open inside him. It was not breaking like something destroyed. It was breaking like a door that had been locked for 200 years suddenly opening wide. 8 months had passed since the council vote. Thomas Webb sat in an office in a tall building in Geneva, Switzerland. The office was modern and clean. There was a desk made of glass and metal. On the desk was a nameplate that read, Thomas Webb, Human Liaison to the Galactic Coalition. Thomas still could not believe it was real. The world had changed completely. After the council's decision, there was no hiding anymore. Governments fell. New governments were created. The Earth Colonial Authority simply stopped existing. The United Nations was reformed into the Earth Space Administration. Every country in the world learned the truth about humanity's place in the galaxy. At first there was fear. People were afraid of the aliens. People were afraid of change. But then the technology started arriving. Energy systems that could power cities without pollution. Medical devices that could cure diseases that had killed people for thousands of years. Agricultural systems that could end hunger forever. Construction materials that were stronger and lighter than anything humans had ever made. The world was transforming. Not perfectly and not without problems. But it was transforming. Thomas was not governing these changes. That was for politicians and scientists much smarter than him. But he was doing something equally important. He was teaching. Every day humans came to Thomas's training center. Engineers, mechanics, scientists, problem solvers, people from every country on Earth. Thomas taught them how to understand coalition technology. But more than that, he taught them how to think about broken things. Do not be afraid of what you do not understand, Thomas would tell them. Be curious about it instead. Every machine has a purpose. Every broken system can be fixed if you understand what it is trying to do. Do not memorize. Do not follow instructions blindly. Think, observe, problem solve. His students learned quickly. They started innovating. Human engineers began making improvements to coalition technology. They created combinations of Earth designs and coalition designs that were better than either alone. The coalition was amazed. They had never encountered a species that could innovate so quickly. Rebecca Fisher was now the director of Human Coalition Relations. She spent her days in meetings with alien representatives, helping them understand humanity. She and Thomas would sometimes share coffee in the evenings. They would watch the news feeds showing humans taking their first steps into the larger galaxy. Do you remember that detention room? Rebecca asked one evening. They were sitting by a window watching the sun set over Geneva. Yes, Thomas said. I thought my life was over. You saved more than just an alien ship, Rebecca said. You saved your entire species. Thomas shook his head. I just fixed a machine. That is all I ever do. Rebecca smiled. Yes, and that is exactly why it worked. Things were happening all over the world. In America, a new space program was building ships using coalition technology. In Africa, doctors were using advanced medical systems to cure malaria and other diseases. In Asia, engineers were building new cities with materials that would last 1,000 years. In Europe, scientists were solving climate problems that had seemed impossible just months before. Humanity was rising. Not perfectly, but genuinely rising. Then one day something extraordinary happened. Thomas was in his office, reviewing training schedules for the next group of human engineers, when his door opened. A shimmer appeared in the air, like heat rising from hot pavement. Then Krell stepped through. The alien looked exactly as Thomas remembered. 7 feet tall. 4 arms. Skin like oil on water. Golden eyes. But now Krell wore official clothing from the coalition. The alien had been promoted. Krell was now an official representative of the Galactic Coalition. Krell, Thomas said, standing up to greet his old friend. What brings you to Earth? I wanted to see you, Krell said. The translator made the alien's voice sound like wind chimes. I wanted to see what your species has accomplished in such a short time. They left the building and went to the observation platform on the highest building in Geneva. From there they could see the entire city. And above the city, in orbit, they could see the coalition stations. Massive structures made of metals and materials that glowed. Ships coming and going. The infrastructure of a new age for humanity. Below them, lights were coming on across the city as evening fell. But these were not just the lights of Earth cities anymore. Mixed among the old city lights were new lights. The glow of coalition stations. The glow of new factories. The glow of human innovation meeting alien technology. Your species is remarkable, Krell said, looking at the lights below. In such a short time, you are already making contributions to coalition science. Already innovating. Already rising. I have never seen any species adapt so quickly. We are just doing what we have always done, Thomas said. Learning. Fixing things. Trying to solve problems. Yes, Krell said. But you are doing it on a cosmic scale now. They stood in silence for a long time watching the world below. Thomas thought about the night when Krell's ship had crashed near his garage. He thought about how he had simply fixed a machine because that was what he did. He thought about how one act of simple kindness and skill had changed everything. I was afraid, Thomas said quietly. When those ships came to my house, when I was arrested, when I was being tested. I was very afraid. Fear is natural, Krell said. But you did not let fear stop you. You spoke the truth. You showed them what humanity could do. You fixed more than just a machine, Thomas. You fixed your entire species. You showed them that they were not inferior. You showed them that they could reach for the stars. Thomas looked at his friend. I just wanted to help. Yes, Krell said. That is exactly what you did. They looked up at the sky together. Above them, the stars were beginning to appear as darkness fell. Countless stars. Countless worlds. Countless possibilities. Thomas thought about his small garage in Montana. He thought about the simple life he had lived, fixing machines for people who needed help. He thought about how his entire world had changed because he did what he always did. He thought about a problem and he fixed it. Come, Krell said. I want to show you something. I want to show you what the coalition has planned for your species. As they walked back to the building, Thomas felt something he had not felt in a very long time. Hope. Real hope. Not hope that things would get better. But certainty that they already were getting better. And certainty that the best was yet to come. The journey had only just begun. But now humanity was finally walking into it with open eyes and open hearts.